Welcome to the final part, the third and final part of reading The Teen's Guide to World Domination Advice on Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Awesomeness by Josh Shipp. I did read through this some time ago, and I'm finally able to finish this story off. We're actually not too far away from it. And then, once we get that done, I will be revealing the next book. Actually, I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint of this book. This is a very interesting novel from this person. It is by Teresa Driscoll, and it was published, if I can look at this right, it was published in 2021. Some people will probably be Googling that while reading this book, but I'm going to say it anyway. There is your hint. It is a book published in 2021 by Teresa Driscoll, and while I'm still in the middle of reading this book, I absolutely love it so far, and I'm very much enjoying the reading of it, and I look forward to reading it whenever I can. With that being said, let's get started with The Teen's Guide to World Domination, Advice on Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Awesomeness by Josh Shipp. Starting with Chapter 21. Here, let me actually do it like I did it the last time. I'm gonna read it without my glasses. Just for the sake of why not. Chapter 21. How to Dominate Your Goals. You know what I love? I love when a plan comes together. No matter what it is, whether it's planning the perfect date, planning a super cool weekend with friends, or planning out my goals for the year. I love it. Everything turns out so much better if you have a plan, yet remain flexible for a little spontaneity. 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 Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Okay. It took me a long time to figure this out on my own, but once learned, the lesson changed my life. If you don't believe me, answer me this. If you don't know where you're going, how will you ever know when you get there? Red alert, that's a rhetorical question. The answer is, you won't. And here's the thing. It's not enough to have a dream. I must point out a misconception about dreams. Heroes don't have dreams. Sleeping people have dreams. Are you sleeping right now? I didn't think so. That was another rhetorical question. You gotta be quick with me. People who are awake have goals. Think about it. Martin Luther King might have had a dream about racial equality, but then he woke up and actually did something about it. I'm sure you've had a dream about doing something incredible or becoming someone awesome, but are you actually doing it? In other words, are you awake or sleeping? You need to have a plan. Any plan at all. It doesn't matter if it's as complicated as a Charles Dickens novel or as simple as a few points on a notepad or a Starbucks napkin. It doesn't matter if you set goals for the next 60 years or just for the next 3 hours. Having a plan puts you a step up, a half a step up, a half step up, there you go. It gives you a framework, something to remember when you lose focus. Start small. You don't need to know what career path you're going to follow or where you're going to live or whether you want a giant mansion in the suburbs or a cozy condo in a major city. Start with the decisions you can make now. Most common forms of villainy with goals. Ghosts, zombies. Here's how to start. Write out a to-do list. Don't make it too difficult or in-depth. You can make your list a series of things you want to do. I'd suggest writing out 3 things max. Stuff you can actually do. If it's overwhelming and lengthy like an Old Testament scroll, you'll shut down, do nothing, and play Xbox all day. Trust me, I know. Then the next day when you wake up, look at your list. Ask yourself, if I did only one thing on this list today, what would make me feel best? What would make me feel like today had been a good, productive day? Pick something, then accomplish that task before noon. Maybe it's writing a blog post on a new album you heard. Maybe it's studying for a history exam. Maybe it's asking out that girl in your math class who's been flirting with you via wordless glances. Whatever it is, make sure you get it done that day. Don't put it off. You don't need to do everything on the list, just one thing. When you put your head on your pillow that night, you'll be able to think back on it and say, I got that done. Awesomeness tip: he who fails to plan, plans to fail. Proverb. It's all about making progress. I had a friend who wasn't happy with his weight, so he got a membership at a gym, and the gym provided a personal trainer. The first day, she worked him out until he puked. The next day, his muscles were shredded and he couldn't lift his legs. He never went back to that gym. He was still unhappy with his weight though, so he joined another gym, a little farther away from the house. They gave him another personal trainer, but this dude took a different approach. I only want you to work out for 15 minutes, the new trainer told him on his first day. But you have to come back tomorrow. That's it? My friend asked, eyeing them suspiciously, and the trainer nodded. My friend rode 10 minutes on a stationary bike, then he lifted weights for 5, and then he went home. The workout didn't kill him. He went back the next day. I'm glad to see you again, the trainer smiled. This is your plan. You work out every day for as long as you like. It can be 10 minutes or it can be 2 hours. All you have to do is show up and do something. By the end of the year, my friend had lost a ton of weight. In fact, he got so fit, he finished the year by taking a 2,700-mile bike trip across the country for fun. Think about it. If my friend had started out by saying, I want to be able to bike 2,700 miles, and just kept thinking about that bike trip every day, he would have felt constantly behind. He would have pushed his body to exhaustion, and at some point, he would have given up altogether. But just working out 10 minutes a day, that's not so bad. Point is, little steps add up if you keep walking. Roll with the punches and kicks and headbutts. The thing with a plan is, it's almost guaranteed not to work the way you want. Some guy named Murphy learned this, and he made it into his own law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy sounds kind of like King of the Zombies, doesn't he? That's okay though. That's how things work. You still need a plan. The key is knowing things won't go flawlessly. There will be mountain-sized obstacles that just rise up out of the ground. Though there will be hedgehog-sized obstacles too. Ultimately, you can't accomplish your plan by just writing it down. If your goal is to be an astronaut, you can't present a list of dreams scrawled in red crayon to the human resources person at NASA and expect to be launched into space the next day. Except maybe as a test subject. Sucker. If you have a plan and an obstacle suddenly blasts up in front of you, you can't sit there and cry. That's what babies do. Literally. They cry and wail until someone stuffs a pinky in their mouth, and then they suckle their worries away. Adaptation is crucial. Your mindset, when that Mount Everest of conflict rises in front of you, should be to pause and think, how do I get to the other side? You can climb, or go around, or pay a Sherpa to helicopter you to the other side. Maybe you can find a more creative way around. The point is, you get around. You don't curl into a ball and sniffle, hoping the mountain will go away. Conflict and adventure is what makes a great story. Which movie would you rather watch? Star Wars or a film about how a whiny kid named Luke Skywalker lived and died working on a moisture farm on Tatooine. Sure, the latter might have been an interesting documentary about growing old doing boring stuff on a desolate sand planet, but it wouldn't have been Star Wars. Set goals, have a plan, make progress, and as you learn more about yourself and your strengths, it's okay to change your mind, but never, ever just plain give up. That's no way to dominate your world. Chapter 22. It's going to be a big one, especially for those who have a job right now. How to dominate your money. And I love how my thing just stops as soon as I say that. How to dominate your money. If you're not careful, your money will own you. Honestly, most of the developed world is a slave to money, and they think it's normal. The most common forms of villainy with money: robots, ninjas, vampires, puppies. I went on McDonald's, so this is perfect for me. Hey, EP, how you doing? It has been a while since I last seen you, EP. How have you been? With money, as with nearly everything, you need to have a plan or you'll end up being dominated. You need to have goals. If you don't have a plan for your money, you're going to learn lessons the hard way. If you don't have a plan, it will usually end in boredom, epic failure, or jail. How can I write like that without backing it up with... How can I write a line like that without backing it up with a story? Story time with Josh, the author, but I'm basically being his messenger with this story. When I was a young lad of 18, someone gave me a checkbook. Sweet! Free money, right? So I started writing checks for all different sorts of things. I could finally buy the clothes and music and DVD that I'd been wanting but was too lazy to work and earn the money for. Before my screwed up money situation came to a crushing halt, I ended up writing over 10, brace yourself for this one, $10,000 worth of bad checks. As I'm driving along one day, rocking to some music that I probably paid for with a bad check, I then pulled over by a cop. I was going 70 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone, so I figured I was getting a ticket for at least $200, which was a lot more cash than I had in my empty checking account at the time. Even worse was the matter of my car insurance because, well, I wasn't sure I really had any, since I'd been sending in bad checks to pay for it, and in Oklahoma, driving without insurance is a criminal offense. I prayed that maybe the next state trooper wouldn't notice. Young man, I need you to step out. You've got a problem bigger than a speeding ticket. He brought me to the back of the patrol car and told me to put my hands on the trunk. He then took my wrists one at a time, pulled them behind my back, and slid steel handcuffs on me. Next stop, jail. That's right, folks. I was a jailbird, a criminal, a felon, a convict, an outlaw, a delinquent. You get the point. And you know whose fault that was? Mine. I can't blame anyone else for it. I can't blame the fact that no one went out of their way to pull me aside and teach me about money. I can't blame the school system for not teaching us about checkbooks or how ATMs are not magical money machines. Who knew? I can't blame my parents for leaving me at the hospital so they could avoid the responsibility of teaching me everything I needed to know about money. The only person to blame is me. I never made a plan for myself, so I ended up learning the hard way. After a night in jail swapping stories with Cyclone, a hardened convict / tattoo artist who gave me my first tattoo of a fire truck on my forehead, I knew I had to make some changes in my life. I'm kidding about the tattoo, by the way, but that night in jail shook me up. I needed to develop a financial plan, and I needed to get out of debt. Have you ever gotten in trouble for your money habits? It's most likely because you never actually developed a plan to guide your spending. Maybe it's too late and you've already made bad financial decisions. Are your money ghosts haunting you? They definitely haunted me but I finally found a way to overcome them. I'm here to help so you don't have to learn the hard way. No more excuses. I'm here to share with you my financial plan, which I use today, as well as some wise words I wish someone would have told me when I was a young buck. I actually do know about certain things like this. I have heard stories from other people about how they've gotten in trouble, about people who have gotten in trouble for the first time in their life and ended up going to jail, uh, regardless of how long they went to jail for their first criminal offense. And just about every single one of them basically have said how that prison time actually made them learn their lesson so much that they did not want to get in trouble again. Regardless of how many times, regardless of how many times I've heard people, or how many people, no matter how many times from the same people I've heard stories about that from, or how many people have told me that kind of story, that has opened my eyes and made me feel like, yeah, I don't want to end up in their shoes either. I really don't. Yeah, it's very crazy. And when you see shows like Beyond Scared Straight, you see what they're like, what the prisons there were like on those shows, on those episodes of the show. Yeah, that should be a wake-up call for anybody basically feeling like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do this then if this is where I'm, because you never know. If you do go to jail for a crime you committed, you don't know which jail you're going to end up at. And it's probably not going to be a good jail for you. Not by a long shot. Money can make you happy. Have you ever heard the phrase, money can't make you happy? Well, it's a full-on lie. I have found one way that money can actually make you super happy. Guaranteed. How? By giving money away. Josh, you want me to give away my money? Are you crazy? You may be thinking. Yes, I most likely am crazy. But stick with me. My scientists at the Hey Josh Institute of Knowledge informed me that by their calculations, the average teenager has just under $20 on them at any given time. If you don't have it on you right now, but you probably got about that much if you add up all your loose change, do me a favor. Draw a circle and write the word below it. Now draw a line through the circle, cut it in half. In one half, write $2. Why? Because half of the world lives on just about $2 a day. That's right. $2. Let that sink in for a second. I want you to understand this. You are filthy, stinking, crazy, unbelievably rich. You might not feel like it because everyone keeps telling you that you need more money, but you are rich. Just think about how easy it is for you to spend $2, the same amount half the world lives on each day. What did you buy today that cost $2? A Coke? A TV show on iTunes? A Junior Bacon Cheeseburger at Wendy's? Potato chips? It's easy to spend $2 than it is to think of anything that costs less than $2. Okay, that's great, I've got a little cash, but it's my money. Why would I give it away? Yes, it is your money. Yes, you earned it. Yes, you can do whatever you want with it. But let's take a tour of a crazy town together. Ready? The world is full of villains who want to get their hands on as much money as they can. Ninjas want to trick others into giving it to them. Robots are programmed to work to make as much money as possible. They think they can actually dominate the world if they have enough cash. In fact, they spend hours and hours each day wondering how they can make money and spend less, how they can sell more products and pay employees less. When you consider how much people stress about getting more and more money, it's almost like they're becoming a slave to it. I'm not down being with us. I'm not down with being a slave to anything. Are you? So, gut check. Who's dominating what here? Do you actually dominate your own world when it comes to money? Or does the world's money mentality dominate you? If you physically cannot give away any of your money, I have to tell you this, I hate to tell you this, but you are a slave to money. I don't care if you think this doesn't apply to you because you don't have much money. It's not about an amount, but a mindset. Get rid of your slave to money mindset and get free. Give away some of your money. Right now. If you can't bring yourself to do it, it's time to get honest with yourself and ask, why not? Want money to make you happy? Find something you really, really care about and throw your money at it. Maybe someone in your family died of cancer and you want to help find a cure. Give! Maybe you want to provide a shot that will keep a child in Africa from getting malaria from a tiny mosquito. Give! Maybe you want to purchase a goat for a village and will give a family milk for years to come. Give! I'm sure you're creative when it comes to spending money. Now get creative when it comes to giving it away. You can't dominate the whole world. You can't dominate how others spend. But you do have control over your own life and how you spend your own money. I hope that when you choose to dominate your own world, it's a beautiful world with no slavery to money. I hope it's a world of complete freedom where you can open your eyes, see a need, and do something about it. Awesomeness tips. We make a living by what we get, but we make a living. Hold on, I messed up that phrase, sorry. Awesomeness tips. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Winston Churchill. If you can't feed 100 people, then just feed one. Mother Teresa. Debt hates your sweet grandmother. Hold your breath. If you haven't received it already, you will very soon. A white envelope addressed to you saying you are special. In fact, you are so special that you are pre-approved to open a credit card account. That letter seems completely harmless. Almost exciting, doesn't it? It even makes you feel a little bit more important, like an adult. But what does that letter really mean? It means this Ninja credit card company has determined that you are a pre-approved sucker. They know that you are young and might not know much about creating a financial plan and are hoping that you allow villains to dominate your world. They are counting on the fact that your desire to be accepted and pre-approved by the world will cause you to sign up for this little plastic ninja membership card. You want approval? Well, guess what? Since you're reading this book, then I, Josh Shipp, pre-approve you. I pre-approve you to throw that letter in the trash without even opening it. I pre-approve you to shred the crap out of the envelope with your parents' lawnmower. I pre-approve you to chuck it in a roaring fire and spit upon its shriveling paper. I pre-approve you to I pre-approve you to take control of your own life and quit letting some ninja corporate executive in a suit sitting on the 58th floor of a skyscraper in New York City dominate your world and take your money. I pre-approve you to the life of freedom, not a life where your decisions are made by your debt. You know debt, right? You know about debt, right? No, it's not even worthy of capitalization. It shall be hereafter known as debt, lowercase d-e-b-t, because it's such a sleepy ninja. For crying out loud, it even has a silent B in the word. There's only 4 letters and one of them is silent? Seriously! Ninja alert! If you're not familiar with that, let me introduce you. Debt loves to put you in tough situations. Debt stresses you out by taking away your options. Debt gives you wedgies that require special medical attention. Debt sends you spam email about words that I don't even want to say. Debt causes arguments between your parents. Debt kicks your kitten in the face. Debt makes out with your boyfriend while you volunteer at the nursing home. Debt constantly tells really lame your mom jokes. Debt clubs baby seals. Debt spits in your food when you go through the drive-thru. Debt says you throw like a sissy. Debt denies your friend request on Facebook. And let's be honest, that's low. No one denies friend requests on Facebook. Debt hates your sweet, sweet grandmother. Debt offers you a lot but actually takes from you. Debt is what happens when you buy things you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't even know. How on earth does that fit in with dominating your own world? It doesn't. Let me explain. If you use your credit card to buy $100 worth of clothes in 1 month, that means you are borrowing $100 from the credit card company. Then they only ask you to pay them back $25 per month since they're such nice people. Classic ninja tactic. Sounds great, right? But remember, you still owe them $75. Since they did you this wonderful favor of delaying your payments, they're going to charge you a tiny fee of about $15. Now that $75 you owe them has become $90. Congratulations! You're now in debt. Welcome to the Pre-Approved Sucker Club. It is what membership looks like. Warning, it can make you cry like a 12-year-old at a Jonas Brothers concert. The average 18-year-old's debt, $3,300. Average credit card debt, $8,500. So basically $3,300 for the average 18-year-old's debt, $8,500 for the average credit card debt, $19,400 for the average student loan debt, $38,000 for the average household debt, and $66,000 for the average 28-year-old's debt. Stings, doesn't it? My advice to you, don't become another statistic. Sure, at first that $15 a month seems like nothing, but as you can see, as you may have just heard, debt slowly continues to creep up on you, becoming bigger and bigger, eventually turning into thousands of dollars while you flash your shiny credit card. I understand that you want to go out to eat with your friends all the time. However, the financial cost of all those little fried chicken fingers will stay with you for years and years to come. At least you had those few seconds of salty goodness, though. I hope you're happy. High school is just the beginning of this madness. After high school, credit card companies attack you at college. When you show up, they try to trick you with extra large t-shirts, stress balls, or stupid pins that don't even work in exchange for your card application. These ninjas offer you crap products, then take your money. Be careful. The really smart ninja credit card companies will offer you iPods or cash or whatever the newest, coolest tool is. See their strategy? These ninjas are trying to grab you the second you leave your parents' side, when you're scared of being alone and you're establishing your independence. You start looking around at the other students with their cool clothes, backpacks, and laptops, and you think you need the same stuff. Debt loves the vampire trap. Debt wants you to become a vampire as soon as possible, and debt will front the cash. It's like the ninja vampire combo attack. I hate it when villains combine forces. But you are too smart to fall for any of this ninja foolishness. You know that tool isn't for sale. If you're going to dominate your world, you don't want some ninja company telling you how to spend your money, do you? Let us recall rule number 1. No person or company has the right to dominate your world. That's your job, hero. Awesomeness tip. Never spend your money before you have it. Thomas Jefferson. Seriously, why wouldn't you listen to TJ? He was smart enough to actually be printed on money. Cool isn't for sale. This is probably the hardest thing you will ever have to comprehend when it comes to money. And to be honest with you, I know that I still struggle with this even today. I still find attracted to some things. A car, shoes, speakers, etc. Someone else has that I don't. Hey, Cam Dog, how you doing tonight? But then I have to remind myself, I am Josh Shipp. I am defined by who I am. I am not defined by what I have or the things I buy. See identity. Let us take a step back and start at the beginning of cool. What is cool? I think cool is an idea of elitism that a specific group creates and accepts for themselves. But it decides what becomes the new cool thing. Vampires. I know, just wanted to stop by and say hi, and also OHIO! I did see that tweet. I did see that comment, by the way. You saying, "Oh, you gotta know what you had." Yep, this right here. And this actually this is actually my dad's OSU hat, but I've been wearing it I've been wearing it because I've forgotten to give it to him. But I've been wearing it ever since. So yeah, I am an OSU fan. Funnily enough, I live about an hour away from where the OSU, the main Ohio State University college campus is at, and ergo I live about an hour away from Nationwide Arena, which I have gone to a few times because of WWE. Yes, I'm a wrestling fan, I can't help it. Also a Buckeye fan, I grew up as a Buckeye fan, and also Michigan sucks. You know what? Cam Dog, you just made me think of this day that I had, okay? Now, for all Michigan fans that are watching this, just know that I am the casual fan. I'm the more casual fan of Ohio State, and I will give that team up north props where it's due in the event they do beat us, because I am just that damn good of a good sport. But anyway, I remember having this shirt that I got from my dad, and I ended up getting one myself. But this shirt that my dad very much loved when I got it for him, had this shirt said, you see this man? And it showed a picture of a guy on the front of the shirt, and it says, "This is Dick. Dick is a Michigan fan. Don't be a dick." And I remember one time I wore that very shirt at work. I was working since I no longer work there, I'll say the name. I worked at Harry and David. I was at Harry and David working there one day, and this one woman, who was, I would say maybe 50s, 60s if I had to guess her age, which I'm not going to for obvious reasons. No woman likes to be missing. No woman likes to have her age wrong. She will kick your ass if you do say it wrong. She will kick your ass. Or if you're like Ophi, well, from Pokemon Sword and Shield, when she gives you that question, when you say her actual age, she's like, "Well, I know how old I am, and you didn't have to say that." You know, that kind of thing. But anyway, this woman looked at I'm noticing the corner of my eye. She was giving me this look. And I just looked right at her and I said, "What's the matter?" "Your shirt has that team name on it." And I'm like, "Okay," and I don't like Michigan. I don't like that team name. I don't like it saying that team name like that. She was like, "Well, I say it Michigan." She says something like Michigan or something like that. My dad has told me he will say Michigan, but when it's the week or the month of the game that we two teams face off, he will not call them by Michigan. He will call them by Michigan or that team up north. Yeah, that's a funny story, actually, when I think about it. It's really funny. Alright. We're gonna go back into this story, and I know where I left off. I should always put this where here so that way I know where I'm at. But I'm going to ask the question of it. I has a book suggestion. Alright, shoot. Just remember, I got a crap ton of books. Actually, I also have a book. I actually have a box of books right here in front of me, too. Oh! Cam Dog, you want to know something funny? Let me show you. You want to know the funny thing is here? Yes! You cannot be a Ohio State fan without having at least one of these things. Cam Dog's going to be like, let's go! Cam Dog's going to be like, let's go! Hell yeah! Well, or heck yes, if he's a kid-friendly channel, but still. Also, 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, I forgot the time. Oh! Hold on a second. You see this book right here? Oh, got it upside down actually. See this book right here? You thought 50 Shades of Grey was bad. This book right here makes it look like child's play probably. Or is at the very level above 50 Shades of Grey. I am not kidding. I'm not kidding when I say this, dude. I will, because I am a man of my word and I said I'm going to be reading every book that I have, with no exceptions. This is going to be included. And I already know what rating I'm giving this book. Also, you didn't have to say she was a porn star, dude. We're going to the point to where it's a bit adult now. In a conversation where I'm reading a book aimed at teenagers. Teens do not need to know about porn. Not at all. God damn it, Coconut. Damn it. Now I'm going to have to be like, this is rated PG-13, but adult stuff being talked about. Yes, but we're all adult in the chat. Yeah, we are. But again, this is a book for teenagers. And I want teens to watch this type of stuff, and well, hell, anybody for that matter, because this is important stuff to read. This is important stuff to learn. Very much so, physically, but maybe not mentally. Oh, don't make me think of that situation that I had to deal with on Twitter. Don't make me deal with that, because a lot of people did not like what I was saying in regard to a certain situation that I've already talked about, but I'm not going to talk about it here because then we're going to be very off topic in that situation. And we're not going to talk about it anymore. I've said my piece on it, and I'll probably update, say some updated thoughts on it whenever I feel the need to do so. But we're not going to talk about that situation. We're going to move on before we go into that territory. And yes, it is probably who you think I'm talking about. Oh, that Twitter thing. Maybe. I should say maybe, because Twitter is filled with drama just about every fucking day. I know this, because I go on there on a regular basis, and you'd be amazed at the number of times I've gotten notifications because people were commenting on my stuff because they wanted to try to be bumholes about it. about what I've said. Sometimes they're a nice, pleasant conversation. Other times it's people wanting to start an argument. I've got time for people who want to. I saw the stream. I wish I had gone into the stream. Some of the accused more than the victims. Well, we're kind of gonna get off topic here. Fuck it. We're gonna say this real quick. Here's how I see that. If you guys want to know, while I believe the person who was exposed for the questionable things that he said, I do believe he should be held accountable. And while I will not easily forgive him for what he did, I can at least give him a little bit of respect on the fact that he, instead of choosing to try to defend himself on what he said, he chose to seek rehab. And even if some people would say he's doing that to save face or whatever, I hope he gets the help that he needs. And like I said before, he cannot fix the past, but he can try for a better future. Even if his past mistakes cost him a whole hell of a lot. But I'm also not going to hold anything back on that 15-year-old, because she did say things that I don't think a 15-year-old should be saying. And people were holding her hand because she said things to an adult. To this 19-year-old, to the then 19-year-old Chugga. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case either, Coconut. Because, let me tell you why, okay? If you guys remember an episode of Beyond Scared Straight, which I wouldn't be surprised if most people here have not seen that video. But you're thinking something big and loud as a bang? What? What? But anyway, as I was saying, if you watch the episode of Beyond Scared Straight, where this teenage boy, is it that shoe guy controversy? I don't know. It is the guy that was talked about having a foot fetish, and the first person that said about it, turned out it was, as far as I heard, it turned out it was consensual at first, and then she probably got a little bit, she got weirded out by it, or something, I don't know. But then the second bit was about the night, him at 19 and she at 15. But anyway, if you guys remember that episode of Beyond Scared Straight, where this teenage boy was revealed to have had, where he was making love to an adult female. For some reason, the cops were yelling at the young boy, and they weren't saying shit about the adult woman, when it should be the exact opposite. So I wouldn't even be surprised if that was the case. If some of the stuff that was consensual, he did nothing wrong. In that situation, in that first situation, yeah. In that second situation, even when it's role play, it can be kind of weird. And even, see, I don't know if you could even say it was, an actual, like, something actually happening sexually, because in role play, nothing actually happens. It's literally a story. But that still doesn't excuse what he said, what a then 19-year-old said to the then 15-year-old. It still doesn't excuse it, because he still shouldn't have done it. Even if, I don't know if there's some technicality on that kind of thing, but still he shouldn't have done it in my book. But I would not give that 15-year-old any leeway either. In her own way, I would hold her accountable for what she said too. For context, while this man did say some things that may have started out being kind of funny, as a reference toward a meme with that all caps "I'm going to rape you," I've played that clip in the stream that I talked about the situation in. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about. And then his comments started going to where it may have been funny, but it could be understandable if it was deemed creepy as well. Maybe funny and creepy at the same time. And then it kind of got a little bit weird creepy. But she made it worse on herself because she said how she was in love with this then 17, soon to be 18-year-old. This was in 2010, by the way. How she had a crush on the 17, soon to be 18-year-old, and how she said that he lived 18 hours away from her. So many 18s, am I right? Literally what she said. I know so many 18s involved here, right? But then she said, who cares about the age limit? Who cares about distance? And then she went on to later say, the law won't stop us. Even if she said the law won't stop us, although I feel like, I can't tell if she was directing it at what Chunda said prior to that, or if it was still in reference toward the 17, soon to be 18-year-old. But the worst thing she said, and I have the pictures that prove what I'm saying is the truth. She said, and I quote, if I wanted to rape, I would. She did say that. I'm not kidding. I said, I have the pictures and I will prove it to you. Take those two, those two things about the age limit, they're bad in itself. Even at 15 years old, saying if I wanted to rape, I would is unacceptable. But people wanted to go off on me on Twitter because I wanted to hold them both accountable. Again, I would hold them both accountable in their own way. But people were just upset because I'm holding him accountable, which they agree with, but I want to hold her accountable as well. Why am I holding her accountable when he's the one, when he is the adult in this situation? Okay. Does that still... Okay, so he said things that he shouldn't have. Do you really think he controls every little word she says? No, I don't think so. Even at 15 years old, you could still say something without even thinking, even if you think he's controlling the conversation. Because a 15-year-old does 15-year-olds have a mind of their own. Just like how 19-year-olds have a mind of their own. And everybody else has a mind of their own. No matter what kind of mindset it is. From the normal to the outrageously crazy. People just have that happen. It's just sort of thing that happens. Now, as I've said before, well, I actually told my dad this story about what this 19 and 15-year-old, and you know what he told me? While it will not justify what he said because he is still an adult and she was a minor at the time, at 19 years old, to be honest, I haven't seen that screenshot yet. I haven't even sent it yet. That's the thing. I haven't sent it. I haven't sent it on the community post yet. I honestly don't know if I will or not. Unless people really want to see the pictures, I'll send it in a community post, but otherwise I'll probably just leave it on my own for now. But see, my dad was thinking that while it will not justify what he said, found on your Twitter profile, lol. Yeah, I do have it there, because I did make my thoughts known. But anyway, my dad was thinking that he probably was thinking this was okay because he's still thinking like a teenager. Because, you know, at 19 years old, you're still recently left the world of the you're still recently just left the teenage years. And now you just became an adult. But the teenage mentality just does not disappear overnight. It really doesn't. Over time it will, but it's not going to happen overnight. So he probably was still thinking like a teenager. And teenagers have a tendency to think of edgy and or like they're trying to be edgy, or they want to look cool. So they say things, either way, they say things they shouldn't have. And somebody, when I said that in a Discord server I'm in, when I said that in the serious discussion chat of a server I'm in, somebody said, you know, I can actually agree with that because I'm not even 21. I'm an adult, but I'm not 21, and I still have that teenager mentality sometimes. There you go. He actually proved my point, but I still said, does that justify what he said or what she said? No, I don't think so. They still said questionable things, and in their own ways, they should be held accountable, in their own respective way for what they've said. Somebody actually said to me, because of my thought process, somebody on Twitter actually said, quote, with all disrespect, I hope you never have kids. And I told him, why? Because I want to hold two separate people in their own way accountable for what they've said. And then I even said, you know what I would do if I was a parent and I seen my 15-year-old and this 19-year-old having the conversation that they had, exactly like what happened between Chugga and this 15-year-old. I would say, here's what I would do. I would call the cops on the 19-year-old because he is legally an adult and he should not be saying those type of things. I didn't even want to make that assumption, but maybe that's true. I don't know. But I'm not making that assumption. But here's what I would have done. If I was a parent of a 15-year-old and I caught wind, or I caught the text messages between my 15-year-old and this 19-year-old, and it plays exactly like what happened between Chugga and this 15-year-old, I would call the cops on the 19-year-old Chugga, but you know what I'm saying. The 19-year-old, because he is legally an adult and he should not be saying any kind of sexual thing to a minor. 15-year-old being a minor, obviously. But then I would sit down with my 15-year-old kid, and I would tell them why what they said is not something they should be, why the things they said are not things they should be saying. I mean, hell, I have a niece and nephew. I've said before I have a niece and nephew. And if any one of them if either one of them, and I hope to God they never do, if they are involved in that, if they are in that sort of situation, which again, I hope to God they never do get involved in that sort of situation, then I would do the same, then I would do that for them. I would sit them down and I would tell them why the things that they said are things they should not be saying. At the end of the day, I do genuinely believe they both messed up in their own way. He should get what he should be held accountable for what he said, and he should get in some way punished for it. While the 15-year-old should be held accountable for what they said at the time. If it was at the time, I believe they should be held accountable for what they said and be told why saying those things are not good to be saying. People don't like that I said that, but that is my opinion. Now, with that being said, I am officially done talking about that. I would like to move on from that conversation because it is a controversial discussion in itself, and we're kind of getting away from the book. And it's literally almost an hour, and I wanted to get this book done soon. I wanted to get this book done as soon as possible. And don't apologize for having the conversation. We still had it, and whatever happens, happens. But let's move on. I want to start over with that question in the last paragraph here. But who decides what becomes the new cool thing? Vampires. Vampires created the idea of cool to dominate your world. No surprise there. Because vampires are typically other popular, mysterious, charming, or uber popular, or mysterious, charming, and intriguing, we occasionally get the urge to imitate them. But because they dress or act a certain way that feels out of our league, you feel like you don't really fit in with them. So you start buying the same clothes the vampires have, listening to the same music, going to the same spots they hang out at. Think about it. Rock stars always create clothing trends that we all look up to. Models always tell you which body image is most attractive to guys. The quarterback is always at the coolest parties. And the head of the cheering squad is always at the center of attention of the school's fashion scene. If you can keep up with their guidelines for being cool, then you've succeeded. You're cool. You're just like them. Until they decide what the next cool thing is. What vampires control what is cool. When vampires control what is cool, they control you and dominate your world. So what does this have to do with money? There is a huge temptation for people to buy cool. You try to buy the rock star's book. You wear the right clothes or say the right words to get invited to the quarterback's party. You blow 3 weeks' allowance on a bottle of diet pills that somehow fail to endow you with the Giselle Bundchen's measurements. I remember wanting one pair of shoes so bad because they would make me look cool and I would be accepted. I ended up throwing them in the garbage 1 year later. Why? Because there was already a new pair of cool shoes. However, I had spent so much money on last year's model I couldn't afford these new ones. Keeping up with cool never stops. It's like trying to reach the finish line when you're running on a treadmill. When you get older, it's about eating at the right restaurants, driving the right car, or having the perfect suit. But cool changes drastically between age groups, geographic locations, and cultures. When Henry VIII was king, it was super cool to be fat and pale. If you live in some areas of Africa, it's cool to have a ton of metal rings around your neck. There is no one solid, universal definition of what is cool. Though cool is really relative. That means throughout your life you'll be associating yourself with many different groups, each with its own definition of cool. Right now, it might be high school, but then comes college. Then you discover what is cool at your workplace, or church, or country club. Then you'll compare cool with a bunch of senior citizens at your nursing home. Then when you die, your family will talk with the funeral home director and ask which coffin is the coolest to be buried in. See my point? Since cool is always changing and evolving depending on where you are in life, you are left with 2 options. Option 1. Try to always be cool. That means you need to devote tons of time to sniffing out upcoming trends. You also need plenty of money to pay for an endless succession of new things. You also will need to be able to ditch your current friends quickly. For example, if being cool becomes smoking weed, you'll need to get rid of your old friends who don't want to liquidate brain cells. You should also be aware that your car is of utmost importance because you need to get out to all the cool parties. The worst part is, the older you get, the more money people are making, which means it's even harder to keep up with the coolest stuff. You think sneakers are bad? Do you have any idea how much the finest Italian loafers run? I sure as hell don't. I'll be honest with you. I've tried to do this before. It's expensive and it's exhausting. The treadmill analogy is more accurate than you think. In fact, even when I was doing all the right things, I felt lonely. There was always another person who had a cooler car or dressed better. I finally had to realize those people telling me what was cool, the vampires, were dominating my world. I had to stop. There had to be a better way. Which brings me to option 2. Be you. Buy clothes that make you feel good about yourself, not what others want you to wear. Do the activities and wear the clothes that line up with your view of dominating your world, not a vampire's view. Once you eliminate all this scrambling to stay cool, you can focus your time on doing exactly what you want to do with your life, not what is required of you to pay the mountain credit card bills. This is what it looks like to dominate your own world. Living for what you want to live for, not what everyone expects you to be, say, or do. A house is where you live. A car gets you to and from where you need to go, and clothes keep you from being naked in public. You don't need the most expensive versions of these things to be happy or cool. When the vampires can't control you any longer, they can't dominate your world. You've succeeded in the most important role of your life, being you. World Domination Challenge. But what about you? Are you impressed with people who have the fancy clothes and the fastest cars? If so, why do you think that is? Do you think they're better, smarter, or cooler than you? This is an interesting one for us. This is something that I believe teens especially need to hear. Because if there's one thing that I know about teenagers, is that I remember just seeing this title of this chapter reminds me of this Lifetime Movie Network TV movie. This was before all they did were completely ridiculously like rinse and repeat romance movies, by the way, where they just focused completely on them. Back at a time when they did do some drama movies, and I mean actual drama, not romance drama, not romantic drama movies, there was a movie that was titled Odd Girl Out. And in this story, in this movie, this main female character was part of the popular crowd. But then because of some sort of misunderstanding or something, she got kicked out of that group. And then, as the story progressed, they start poking fun at her. Specifically, her body. And that got so bad. That whole bullying her got so bad. She actually tried. I'm pretty sure she tried to do this in this particular manner for this particular reason. At the biggest scene in this movie, she was invited to a party. Okay? But when her mother drops her off into the building where this party supposedly was to take place, there was nobody there. And that was the last straw for her. And so she chose to go into the bathroom and take some pills. I don't even know what kind of pills they were. But she took some pills. And the next thing you know, when her mother, grieving on her own, goes to check up on her daughter and sees she's not in her room anymore, she looks around and the first thing she sees is her daughter's body motionless on the bathroom floor. And then she calls 911. They they take her to the hospital. She ends up okay. She ends up okay. In case anybody's wondering what happens to her character. But there was a scene that made me just be like, this girl understands. There's this moment, as she was in the hospital, where these students where this classroom of students talk about the situation. And at one point, this kid who was becoming her friend, after she got kicked out of the group, she stuck up for this main character. And her friend who was part of the group that was bullying her was trying to defend, saying, "You've only known her for what? A short amount of time?" And they go at it a little bit, but this new friend basically goes back to her saying, she says, "Well, we've known her longer than you have," and this, okay, I'm getting confused here. The bullying ex-friend said to the new friend, "You've known her for a short amount of time, we've known her longer than you have." And this new friend tells the bully friend, "Yeah, long enough to kill her." And I seen that moment and I'm like, damn. And she still got her comeuppance. This main character got her comeuppance. I actually, before I continue with the story and begin the chapter, let me see. Oh crap, I gotta do this real quick. Damn it, I gotta deal with my internet on my PlayStation. What the hell? I'm checking to see if this movie's on YouTube, because if it is, for any teenager out there that are anybody watching this, but specifically teenagers, because I feel like that movie is directed especially at teenagers. It's gonna be like that, isn't it? It's gonna be like that. We're gonna have to wait. Well, actually, if anybody wants to look it up, on YouTube for me, see if that movie, I will say, if it doesn't have anybody's name, it should have Alexa Vega. Yes, the same Alexa Vega that played in, yes, the same actress that played as Carmen in the Spy Kids movies. Yeah, that very same person, she played as the main character that I'm referring to. If my internet was working, I would check it out right now. But we have to move on, because we wasted enough time talking about things. And here's why I said that whole thing was relevant. Chapter 23. How to dominate your body. It's easy to dominate your body. Here's the formula. Work out for 3 hours a day. 3 hours every day. Take stories. Hold on a second here. It's easy to dominate your body. Here's the formula. Forrest, get the words right before you start messing up. Here's the formula. Work out for 3 hours every day. Take steroids. Skip meals. pay bajillions of dollars to have plastic surgery. No! Don't! Those are the lies of the ninjas and vampires. Just like they try to control you by defining what is cool, the villains of the world will try to enslave you to gym memberships, tanning salons, and beauty regimens by telling you how you should look. Don't let them. Just as with money, you have a choice here. A. Let the vampires tell you how to look, or B. Be you. I'll let you decide. That said, it's important to treat yourself right. Contrary to popular metaphors, our bodies do not work the same as cars. With a new car, you take it off the lot and it's ready to go. It's powerful, the steering is tight, and it has that distinct scent associated with buyer's guilt. Chemicals. It's all downhill from there. Over time, your car piles on the miles, the spark plugs get less sparky, the oil gets black with sludge, and the cracks between the seats hide receipts, dropped pins, and the occasional french fry. Don't worry, they have too many preservatives to rot. The human body, on the other hand, takes around 20 years to reach its peak. From that point forward, it's up to you whether you want to be driving when you're 40 in A. a cherried out classic Mustang convertible, or B. a broken down rusted Hyundai without hubcaps or a muffler. We all, based on our personalities, have our weaknesses when it comes to physical health, and we all, to some extent, have addictive personalities, whether it's junk food, alcohol, nicotine, television, sex, or other things. Anything that makes us feel good or boosts our self-image can slip into a dangerous lifestyle choice. Even fitness can be an addiction. Maintaining moderation in all things is much harder than it seems. Often it's not enough to trust your willpower. The earlier you can remove the temptation of unhealthy lifestyles, the easier they are to cope with. So separating yourself from situations where you may slip is the first line of defense. Most common forms of villainy in health. Ninjas, vampires. Avoid addiction. My friend Steven smoked for 8 years. He knew he was damaging his body. He didn't have as much energy as he used to. His breath was bad, and this is kind of graphic. He'd cough up chunks of green phlegm every morning, hacking them into the bathroom sink. Warned you. It wasn't that he didn't like smoking. He loved smoking. He thought it was cool. You're holding fire in your hands. You're breathing smoke. It cools out of your mouth like you're a dragon. Humphrey Bogart smoked. With a cigarette, you can gesture with your hands and it seems like you're more important. Stephen always had an excuse to take breaks during work, and no one cared. Despite all that, Stephen knew he was killing himself. Every day that he was still smoking was one more day he didn't feel right. To quit, Stephen got a prescription for a recently developed smoking cessation drug. You're supposed to take this drug twice a day for 3 months. Right away, though, Stephen could feel the effects. His need for nicotine was gone. Stephen smoked a few cigarettes for the first week, but the desire went away, and he went 20 days without smoking. He felt free, felt better than he had in years, and was sure he had quit. He stopped taking this drug after 2 weeks. But the reason you're supposed to take the drug for 90 days, even though the physical addiction is gone in the first week or so, is to learn to live a life without cigarettes. Soon, Stephen was smoking his favorite cigarette of the day, the one with his morning coffee. 2 weeks later, he was smoking if he was out with his friends. Then he was smoking after every meal. Pretty soon, he was back to his previous habits. He's stopped now. He got another prescription for the exact same drug, paid the couple of $100 a second time, and went through the full 90 days. The point is, addiction is really just physical. It is usually a mental crunch, a brain vampire chained to a ghost, meant to help us get through a situation. Maybe we have a few drinks at a party or loosen up. Maybe we need an energy drink to get us going in the morning. Maybe a cigarette helps us to take the time out from the hectic schedule. All addictions start out in increments, one tiny little bit at a time. The only way to remain addiction free is to avoid those vices altogether. Of course, sometimes that's not possible. Hello, Amelia. How you doing tonight? And thank you. I actually, it's ironic here. I'm surprised nobody's accused me of something here because this is the second book that I've read that's specifically aimed at teenagers. But I have said literally anybody could read this book, and maybe it might teach them a thing or two about how you should go about life. In case you never learned that sort of thing as a teenager, that's how I see it. Of course, sometimes that's not possible. And most of the time, let's see, I'm doing great. I just had a doctor's appointment today, and that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Great to hear, I should say. Well, good to hear if it's a regular doctor checkup kind of deal. Great if it involved some sort of surgery. Of course, sometimes that's not possible. And most of the time, there's nothing wrong with a glass of wine. If you're of legal drinking age, of course. Or a cup of coffee every now and then. In fact, those things can be very enjoyable. It's when they become necessary to your everyday life that things go downhill. Even worse, you start to enjoy them less and less. Stephen's first cigarette in the morning with a steaming cup of black coffee was a pleasure. But paying $5 per day and interrupting his schedule every hour or so with the need for a bitter breath of burning tobacco out in the rain was not. Stay active. Because of our growing dependence on technology, that's very relatable nowadays, most of us lead very sedentary lives. That's a fancy way of saying we spend most of our time on our butts. Well, shit. We sit at computers all day at work, and go home and spend our time in front of the television, or on the internet, or playing video games. How many people are feeling attacked right now by that? Really? Like, seriously, no joke. Who else is feeling like, damn, I'm feeling called out right now, what the hell? What the heck? Some estimates claim between 20 and 30% of Americans are obese. Not a few pounds overweight, not big boned, not husky, but obese. I think the biggest issue is a lack of exercise. Lying around becomes an addiction too. Our bodies are built for physical activity, and many of us have lost the sense of what our bodies can do. My friend Sarah was a songwriter, but she was short on cash. She applied as a barista at a major coffee chain. The first day she worked 4 hours, all on her feet. By the end of the day she could hardly stand. She went home that night and laid in the bathtub. Her feet were swollen and weary, and her back was unbearably tight. She couldn't imagine going back the next day. But she did. 3 days later, she could stand for hours with hardly a break. She was amazed at how her body dealt with the changes. It's like that in almost everything. If you go backpacking up in the mountains, you'll want to die within the first few hours. 3 days in, you're ready to march 10 miles with 40 pounds on your back. I heard a story once about a man who was unhappy with his life. He was in his 40s and his life was falling apart. He hated his job and he was fought with his wife and teenage daughter constantly. He was overweight and tired all the time, and life was a massive disappointment. So he decided to kill himself. But if he just offed himself with a gun or jumped off a bridge or something, his life insurance wouldn't pay out. He and his family would lose their house and savings, and his daughter would never get into school. So he devised a plan to have a heart attack. For 2 months, he ate the worst foods he could imagine. He shoveled down donuts and cupcakes at work. He ate massive helpings of steak and buttered bread for dinner. At lunch, he bought fast food, supersized, and forced himself to swallow it all. Instead of water, he drank soda and booze. The only thing he didn't shove down his gaping maw were vegetables. He never even tried to take up smoking, but couldn't handle it more than a few days. He even tried to take up smoking, but couldn't handle it more than a few days. Then, after the 2 months, he went out for a run. A long one. Miles and miles. Almost a marathon. He decided to run until his heart collapsed from the effort. A quarter-mile run in, he was panting and heaving. At a half-mile, sweat was spurting from his pores and his clothes were soaked. At a mile, he knew he was close. He was afraid of death, but he knew he couldn't turn back. He thought about how awful his life was, and he ran on. For 6 miles, he ran on. But he never collapsed. After the 6th mile, his muscles were exhausted, and he could run no farther. His heart was beating out of his chest, but it didn't stop. Then a weird thing happened. He felt really, really good. Maybe this is the euphoria before death, he thought. But it wasn't. He decided to try again the next day. The next day, despite every muscle in his body shrieking in pain, he ran again. This time he made it 7 miles before his legs gave out, but his heart kept beating. Strangely, he felt good again. He kept trying for a week and it never worked. He got faster and faster and could run farther each time, but his heart wouldn't die. He felt better and kept running. The weight fell away and he started to eat healthier because it made him feel even better. He gained his energy back and was in a better mood. He became more patient with his family and began to think maybe he should try a new career path. Maybe get a job he'd be more happy with. Sometimes we like to pretend it's not there, but there's a link between our body and our spirit and our mind. One part of us can't be fully healthy without the other. Similarly, if we focus too much on our physical selves, our head and heart won't be working at their full potential. Not all of us are athletes, so it's important to find physical activities we enjoy, whether it's team sports or individual competition against ourselves or others. There are plenty of opportunities out there, so just try one out. If softball or basketball aren't your thing, try frisbee, golf, skateboarding, biking, or hiking through a nature preserve. The point is, you can't dominate your world without controlling your physical body. We are 2 chapters away from the part 4, and then once I get to part 4, I'll take a little break. So that way we're all on the same page there. Chapter 24. How to be a communication hero. There's a good chance if you're reading this book that you are a member of either Generation Y, born between the early 80s and mid 90s, that would be me, or the millennial generation. I'm a super early Gen Y baby myself. If you are, you've been raised in a world of limitless communication. I'm gonna get all old man on you for a second. When I was a youngster, long distance was expensive. Mobile phones were in their infancy, and the size of a suitcase, and only a select few computer nerds were dreaming about the possibility of electronic mail. We'll call it email for short, they decided. The easiest form of communication was still a stamped letter carried by horse and babbing to its final destination. Just kidding. But it's true that letters were pretty much the speediest way to communicate. Or a fax machine. Man, those were lame. These days, we are connected nearly all the time. We have relationships with people all over the world. I can talk to almost any of my friends face to face while I write these words, sitting in a hotel lobby in San Jose. To us, this is just an everyday reality, but if you take a moment to think about it, It's mind-boggling. There are upsides and downsides to the advent of the internet. Communication is one of the upsides. Still, it pays to run through a quick course on communicating at all levels. No matter how connected we are, we still need to communicate with people face to face, so let's start there. Even though you're 5 feet away, I'd feel better if we texted. I don't care if you're the greatest emailer on the wide, green planet Earth. You could still suck at meeting someone face to face. Ask any poker professional. The majority of our F2F communication is not in the words we say, it's in how we say them. Our inflection, tone, and body language convey our true meaning. Compare and reflect. Scenario A. How are you today? The starting linebacker asked the little freshman, Sammy Jackson, in the hall after the first period. He extended his hand and smiled wide. Welcome to Lincoln High School. Scenario B. How are you doing today? The starting linebacker asked little Sammy Jackson in the hall after period, right before he punched Sammy in the stomach, sending the freshman's book spinning across the polished floor. As he walked away to the laughter of his teammates, he shouted over his shoulder, Welcome to Lincoln High School. You get the point? Same words, different meaning. If we mumble, slouch, and dart our eyes toward the ground, we convey, at best, discomfort with the situation. At worst, we look like guilty criminals. While it's true that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, a bad first impression can be devastating, especially if we want to make an ally. When you meet someone for the first time, follow these 4 tips. Stand up straight. By using good posture, you let people know you are confident and strong, and they will admire that. Use a firm handshake. You don't need to squeeze like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Very good book and movie, by the way. Just a firm grip. A weak handshake feels weird, and there's a sense you don't really care about talking to this person. You'd be surprised how few people understand this basic principle. If you're a woman, a firm handshake isn't as necessary, but it's still a good idea. You don't want your hand to feel like a clam. No one likes touching a clam. Seriously, I got goosebumps, the bad kind. What? Just thinking about it. If you're a guy and you shake hands with a girl who has a stronger grip than you can pretty much count her out as a prospective date. Maintain eye contact. Look the person in the eye and maintain that eye contact when you're speaking to him or her. Like handshakes, you want to do this without reason. If you stare at someone wide-eyed and unblinking for minutes on end, they might get creeped out. Speak clearly and with confidence. Don't worry, no one has a complete mastery of the English language, but you're definitely not going to be heard if you mumble 1 decibel above a whisper and slur your words together. You don't need to use fancy words in an attempt to sound smart. The goal is simple communication, not a word of the day calendar expo. Also this tip. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Josh Shipp. What did you say? You know how I say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it? As I literally just used in the awesomeness tip. Well, there's a catch. If you're saying things like, I wish you were dead, or your mama's so fat, or otherwise making threats or rude jokes or tearing people down, it's definitely what you're saying that matters. Your tongue is one of the toughest parts of your body to control. Unfortunately, there's no getting words back. Once you've set them free in the world, they're out there for good. Lodged in someone's memory where they'll stay potentially forever. They may come back to haunt you. They may come back to haunt the one who heard them. Either way, such words are better left unsaid. You don't want to be responsible for creating ghosts. If you have a hard time figuring out what to say and what not to say, try a little exercise I like to call word math. I'm not talking about those tricky SAT questions where they ask you about where and what time 2 trains meet if one train leaves from Chicago at 1 p.m. traveling to Boston at 70 miles per hour, and the other train just leaves Boston at 3 p.m. traveling towards Chicago at 56 kilometers per hour, just to be tricky. I hate those problems. They make my eyeballs numb. No, word math is simple. Basically, everything you say is either going to add to someone or subtract from them. If it subtracts from them, tears them down, or makes them feel stupid or otherwise hurts their feelings, it's probably not a nice thing to say. And you should either not say it at all or, if it's too late, apologize and quickly. If it adds to other people and makes them feel better and encourages them to, or makes them laugh, you're probably okay. Another note. Know your audience. This is key. Remember those listening skills I've been telling you are so important? Bust them out here. If you want to get through to people, speak their language. Try not to offend them. Good luck with that nowadays. Use words and illustrations they can relate to. Your grandpa probably doesn't have a clue about the internets and may just be learning how to operate one of those flashy new VCR thingamajigger telling him you Googled something, it's just gonna confuse him. The call is coming from inside the house. Mastery of phone communication has nothing to do with the person you're calling or the person calling you. The first step is being courteous to the people you're around. Unless you're discussing national security policy, no one else wants to hear your one-sided conversation. And even then, only Russian spies would care. If you're in a movie theater, the grocery line, or any other place where others are stuck standing next to you while you prattle on about last night's Lakers game or how you can't believe what she said about so-and-so, take it somewhere else. Find a place where people don't have to listen to you. Otherwise, you come off like an enormous tool. The same goes for plenty of other activities. If you're operating heavy machinery, particularly something that requires a large amount of focus, like driving a car or a Mack truck, get off the phone. You're not as good as multitasking as you think you are. There's nothing to be ashamed of. No one is. They've done studies. Of course, there are situations where you need to take a call when you're driving. If you do, and it's legal in your state, make it short or have a passenger do the talking. Otherwise, the rules are the same. Speak clearly and loud enough to be heard. OMG, lol! As awesome as electronic communication is, its unique immediacy and absence of body language also make it easy to mess up. Problem 1. Inflection and meaning can be lost. While this issue improves as people learn how to effectively communicate through writing, it still requires a deft writing hand to communicate not only the message, but the tone. If you're using all capital letters and a 747 full of exclamation points, you'll give the impression that you're always yelling, and no one likes a yelling. Problem 2. We don't have time to dwell on what we say. You know how your temper flares up, you're supposed to count to 10 and cool down? With the instant gratification of email, text messages, and Twitter, we can reply in seconds, often without considering the other person's view, and often slathered in a healthy protein of emotion, good and bad. Problem 3. Sarcasm doesn't translate well into writing. Enough said. Remember the scene in Anchorman where the rival news teams meet up in an empty industrial complex and it quickly turns into an epic battle? Email conversations, message board threads, and online chats have a tendency, like the Anchorman battle, to get out of hand quickly. The reason is, all we have to do is type and send, and it takes 30 seconds if you're slow. If you're slow. 1 minute you're peacefully discussing plans for the evening, and the next you know your best friend is threatening to rob you in your sleep. It's so tempting when we finish composing a nasty witty response to a real or imagined sight to click that send button. In reality, maybe we're best off waiting a day or two before replying. Almost every time that I've waited to send a hot-tempered email I've written, I found a better, more civil way to voice my position in the morning. I probably spared myself quite a bit of heartache that way. Problem 4. Professionalism. There's nothing wrong with informality among friends, but we need to remember not everyone knows us or reads our emails the same way. Your boss may not understand your sarcastic sense of humor. See problem 3 just now. The girl you're interested in may not be amused by videos of Chinese bike riders splashing into 4-foot deep puddles in the sidewalk. In all electric exchanges, it's crucial to really think about who we're communicating with and to err on the side of caution. All apologies. While we're on the subject of communication, I want to say something about apologies. When communication begins to break down, it's like a bomb that needs diffusing, like in an episode of 24. The quickest way to diffuse a situation is to apologize. It may not be your fault completely, but every conflict, every miscommunication, involves mistakes on both sides. I guarantee nothing will diffuse that bomb quicker than owning up to your mistakes. Take a moment to look at what went wrong, then apologize for your part. Maybe your part is small, or maybe it's big, but an apology will immediately help reduce tension and lower defenses. Apologize authentically. I'm sorry you reacted that way to what I said about your blank is not an apology. You cannot apologize for how someone else reacts. You can only apologize for your actions. If you're not sorry, don't apologize. But there's a 99.83% chance you do have something to apologize for. It's your job to find what that something is, own up to it, and make amends. You may not see the results immediately, but I promise you'll be better off in the long run. It goes against every fiber of our being to admit our weaknesses and surrender to someone else. But that may be why it works so effectively. You're such a great listener. As always, communication also comes down to listening. But Josh, you may be crying, I suck at listening. Yeah, listening isn't always that easy, so here's a tip therapists use. Mirroring. Basically, mirroring means repeating back what someone had said. In couples therapy, you're supposed to repeat your partner's words, almost like you're imitating them. If you do that in real life, people might think you were raised on a different planet, so you'll have to tone it down some and just repeat back main points. This works particularly well against robots. Here's an example from a conversation with your school counselor, CounselBot 2000. So I'm going to use the robot voice for CounselBot 2000 and still use my regular voice for the you. Your grades are not good enough. If you do not improve your GPA, your top university choice will not accept you. So are you saying I'm not going to get into my top choice? No, I am sorry. I seem to have miscommunicated. What I am saying is that if you bring your GPA up a few points, you can make it in. That's good to hear. Let's talk about how to bring my GPA up. On the surface, it may seem like the school counselor doesn't believe in you. It doesn't think you can meet the requirements to get into college of your choice. If you take a step back and look at it from your counselor's perspective, or ask your counselor to clarify, you'll see she is merely encouraging you to improve your grades and is actually looking out for you. Of course, if you're like me and the ADD kicks in, you might fade out after a few sentences. I realize how ridiculous this sounds, but I'm telling you, it works. If you're actively listening, you're not busy building up your defense in your mind as soon as your boyfriend starts talking. It forces you to put yourself in the other person's shoes and to see that the other person isn't attacking you. The best communicators understand the importance of listening. Think about it. How good would my expert advice be if I didn't read the actual question? That's a good point. Chapter 25. How to be a hero with your talents. Before we get started, a word of warning. Don't get cocky. Odds are you have some pretty mad skills. Maybe you can triple jump like a jackrabbit, make your own clothes, or tell jokes so funny that Granny has a heart attack. That's great. Although, try to hold back a little around Granny, she's delicate. But here's the thing. No matter how good you are, you'll almost always find someone better than you. And since you're just not cut out to be an awesome at everything, there will be areas where you're really quite bad. Like me. I can run a marathon, but I can't tell my left from my right. Pretty embarrassing sometimes. My point is, if you look around, you'll always be able to find people that you're faster than, stronger than, harder than, and just play better than at various tasks, games, skills, or whatever. By the same token, you'll always find people, you'll always be able to find people that are more attractive or more talented than you. Sorry, but it's true. But guess what? Comparing yourself doesn't matter. You are not better than other people, and they're not better than you. You are you, and they are them. Simple as that. You're not going to establish your identity by comparing yourself to other people. Anytime you find yourself comparing yourself to others, stop, drop, and roll. That you may not know it, but you're labeling them in a small way. Truly being yourself is not about being better or worse than others. It's about being your best. Remember that, and you'll be able to pull the fangs out of every vampire that comes along. You'll be able to dismantle robot machines and stop zombies dead or undead, re-dead, in their tracks. And you'll resist the urge to become a vampire yourself. Instead, you'll be able to flex your talents and abilities with controlled, humble confidences. So we already know. The dream is to make a living doing something we love. But as I previously mentioned, making a living doing something we love takes a lot of practice, a pile of effort, and a heaping tablespoon of good luck. Let's be honest here. Not all of us have the time and income to spend all day, every day, following our muse. There are bills and dues to pay now, homework to turn in, and dishes to wash after dinner. The vast majority of us don't get offered our dream job out of nowhere, or have an overflowing trust fund which gets us out of work. It's not just about following your dreams, though. Even if you reach the top of your dream field, even if you've completely dominated your career and you're getting paid billions of dollars to do what you do for free, you should still have interests outside of that area. My friend Sonny is a movie director and a pretty successful one. He's doing the job he's always dreamed of. But he can't do it all the time or he'd be a smoldering wreck of a man, so he balances his job with his hobbies. He cooks and plays video games and spends time with the people he cares about. If he didn't, he'd go mad. In his New York Times bestselling book, A Whole New Mind, Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the Future, author Daniel H. Pink writes about how, after nearly a century of the world being heavily dominated by left-brained people, engineers, lawyers, and software engineers, for instance, our world is moving toward an age of right-brain dominance. Essentially, creatively minded people will gain prominence and importance in the business world they never had before. Awesomeness tip real quick. The opposite of play isn't work. It's depression. To play is to act out and be willful, exultant, and committed as if one is assured of one's prospects. You're going to like this point. Pink has a whole chapter on the importance of play. To Daniel H. Pink, play is more than just a break from the grind. It is an essential key to being successful. Besides giving us time to rest, playing actually improves our work by helping us think creatively and taking a larger picture outside of the focus of our work. You've probably heard the show House on Fox. It's about a doctor, played by British actor-comedian Hugh Lowry, who's ridiculously brilliant at diagnosing diseases that other doctors miss, but he's also a pretty epic jerk. For a large percentage of each episode, House and his team of doctors are faced with a medical mystery. They try different treatments and narrow the possibilities down as each treatment fails, yielding a new symptom. At the 45-minute mark or so, they are usually stumped. Nothing is working. And it's right around this point House ends up talking to Wilson, a doctor who is not on his team, but who is also House's only close friend. The conversation between House and Wilson is almost never about the actual case. It'll go something like this. Wilson says something about House's inability to form meaningful relationships. House makes a snarky comment. Your problem, House, is you don't realize you're really a great guy on the inside, waiting to get out. Like the Grinch. Camera zooms in close on House's face as his eyes go wide. Guy on the inside. Grinch. House gets up abruptly and hobbles out of the room. Later in the operating room, where House's team is preparing a do-or-die operation on the patient with the mystery illness, House barges into the room, usually pulling a cable out of a machine in the process. Stop! Stop the surgery! All this time we were looking in the wrong place. The problem is inside the patient. He has Grinchitis, a rare heart disorder where the patient's heart swells to 3 sizes too big. The patient is cured by a simple procedure. Sure, House is a fictional character, but that epiphany moment towards the end of each episode is an illustration of how House's playtime, when he goes and messes with Wilson, often draws out the brilliant solution he needs to do his job well. Real life doesn't work out so neatly, of course, but the point is the same. When we take time out for the people and hobbies we love, we get better at doing our job and utilizing our talents. The rest of your life. Chick-fil-A is a hugely successful fast food chain based in Georgia. They claim to have invented the chicken sandwich, which makes them an A-OK in my book. Though this is the author saying it, not me, I've never had Chick-fil-A before in my entire life. S. Truett Cathy made that decision because he is a churchgoer and firmly believes in a Sabbath. The Sabbath is a Jewish and Christian tradition which calls for one day out of every week to be spent away from work, either with loved ones or tinkering around the house, or reading a book, or watching football all day. Whether you hold those beliefs or not, the act of taking a step back from driving toward your goals can be wonderfully rejuvenating. A chance to recharge, relax, breathe, and spend time with the people in your life who really matter. It's really important you give yourself an opportunity to relax now and then. If you need an excuse, just say God told you to take the day off. Sometimes hobbies pay off. If you're not at the top of your game yet, if you're paying your dues on the way to dominating your world, doing what you have to do so you can do what you want to do, you could argue taking the time to hone your talents is even more important. My friend Jason, the writer, was saving up money to get married. Writing wasn't paying the bills, so Jason took a full-time job at a grocery store. The combination of being on his feet for 8 hours performing tasks he didn't find at all interesting wore on him, but Jason still knew he had to work at his dream, so he spent at least an hour every day on writing projects and blog entries. That little bit of time each day helped keep him on track. While he liked the people he worked with and served at the grocery store, he didn't want to spend the rest of his life ringing up artichokes. For about a year or so, writing was Jason's hobby, at least until he could earn enough income to quit his job as a cashier. I mentioned this in the chapter on school, but sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. What's important is keeping those goals in sight and working toward them, even if they seem miles away from reality. And even when your hobby isn't the same as your dream job, it'll pay off in one way or another. If you love cooking like Sonny does, it doesn't matter if it pays the bills. But I can guarantee it will get him a second date. Alright, so I am going to go ahead, take a little break. We are now on part 4, which is the final part. And we have 2 more chapters and the acknowledgments in this book left. But I'm going to go ahead and do something real quick. I will be right back. Should I play some non-copyrighted music? Just for the sake of why not? I should probably think of doing that, so that way while I'm gone, you guys got some good, probably good music to listen to. God damn it, internet, why you gotta be problematic with me right now? Come on. Oh, no, it's not being problematic. Because I obviously don't want to get in trouble. There are, and I'm not kidding, there really are some pretty good non-copyrighted music out there. Uh, on the lovely world of YouTube. Uh, if you looked hard enough, you will see some pretty good non-copyrighted music. I know I said I gotta do something right now, but I wanted to check on my internet on my PlayStation real quick. Cause then I hold on a second here. What? Just because of that one thing that's not gonna work. Because it could not get the download speed corrected. Really? Yeah, I'm gonna start. I've honestly been thinking about playing some. If there's no music in the background, probably play some music in the background while I'm gone, so that way you guys got something to listen to. Not, I would love to play songs that I would love to play songs that I really like. The only problem is, oh come on, are you? Wow, really, PlayStation Network? We won't even sign in on there. What the heck? Come on, man. You could be better than that. Come on. You got this. Start with my door open. Sometimes, for some reason, it works when my door is open. Why does this work every time my door is open? Why can't it work when my door is closed? What the heck? So many people are saying stuff that I can't read because I'm not over there. I'm over here. But I'm still doing this real quick. So that way you guys got something to listen to while I'm out. I could probably start doing that actually. If I could find a really good non-copyrighted song that I could use as like an intermission kind of break. You know, kind of like with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang or all those uh, taking a break slash be right back type of stuff. Yeah. That kind of thing, that would be really good, honestly. God, this fucking thing, I swear. This thing does not want to work with the download speed for some reason. I don't even know why. Oh, come on! I did literally no joke. My door is open, but yet for some reason it does not want to acknowledge my internet. My internet does not want to acknowledge my door being open. What the heck? I'd be very surprised if I go over there and something happened in the chat room and I wasn't even there because I'm over here trying to get my thing going so that way I can play at least something while I'm out. uh, is it with that connection speed upload? What is it with that one little thing? I swear to God. Come on, Internet. Work with me here. Come on. Oh, great. Even the IP address thing. I'll be right back. Easy cow. Deal with that later. Okay, I have returned. I'm sorry that took so long, but we're finally back. Let's move on here. Alright. Part 4. How to dominate today, tomorrow, and forever. Chapter 26. The battle never ends. Congratulations! You've dominated your world! Well, a few significant parts of it anyway. I mean, for today, at least. I don't mean to be a downer, but becoming the hero of your world and kicking out the villains isn't just a bam, pow, done kind of thing. Those villains will keep coming back. That puppy is still sitting in that pet store window, and a new one will probably join it next week. Ninjas and vampires will never stop trying to control your time and money. Pirates will never stop trying to take advantage of you. I mean, they're villains. What did you expect? Peaceful surrender? In his best-selling book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell explained what it takes to be successful. To do so, he studied the men and women who had really dominated their world. He looked at Bill Gates, Michael Jordan, the Beatles, and professional hockey players from Canada. He found that in order to reach that level of success, people needed three things. One, to be in the right place at the right time for opportunities to present themselves. Two, to recognize and seize those opportunities when they appeared. Three, to work as hard as they could. You'll notice that of those three things, only one is completely under your control. Number 3, hard work. But there's a trick with those things that are out of your control. An optimistic attitude and perseverance. You can't force a company to hire you or a record label to offer you a contract, but you can keep trying. Can keep trying. Yes, indeed. Perseverance is the cousin of hard work. It's one thing to begin a great project. Starting is easy. It's following through that's the killer. When we start a project, no matter what it is, some inexplicable force in the universe steps up to stop us. You can call that force whatever you want, but there's no denying it's there. The stronger that force works against you, the more likely it is that your project is necessary, and the more important it is that you fight through to the end. See Chapter 6, using ghosts as reverse guides. This is why the world is littered with people who haven't dominated their world. They've all had dreams, but not all have had the guts to follow through and to cross the finish line. Doing this takes an unbelievable amount of courage. You have no idea what's in store when you set out to accomplish a dream. Just like Luke Skywalker had no idea what was ahead when he left the farm on Tatooine. What you do know is, the more you overcome, the greater a hero you will be. Success isn't always what you think. Finishing a goal doesn't mean you'll be rich and famous right away. Besides, money will make you happy only if you live it away, remember? You might find the kind of adversity that few people have even dreamed that people have ever dreamed of, and your project still might fail, at least in your terms. But falling short doesn't mean you failed. Once you've followed through and finished what you started, it becomes easier next time, simply because you've done it before. Sometimes success is just accomplishing something that others rarely do. It's like flying. When everything breaks down and you're plummeted to earth, you dust yourself off, look up at the sky, and say out loud, "Well, now I know what doesn't work." Then you take to the sky again. Awesomeness tip: practice makes improvement. Josh Shipp. Chapter 27. The End Has a Start. Hopefully, this book has done a good job of explaining what the real world looks like for a teen like yourself. But just in case, I want to take a moment and review. If you've been nodding off while reading or holding the book in one hand and your Xbox controller in the other, wake up! Focus! This is where it counts. Dominate your world. By now you should fully understand what it means to dominate your own world. After reviewing and mocking all the cartoon villains, evildoers, and historical morons who try to take over the world, we've determined it's a generally dumb idea that just doesn't really work. However, we have also discovered that there is one thing that's worth pursuing. By striving to dominate your world, you can overcome your villains, survive in any circumstance, and be the hero of your own epic story. In other words, your world can be dominated by one and only one person. You. Follow the Hero's Creed. We have discussed the two basic principles of the Hero's Creed. The first is that no one else has the right to dominate your world. The second is that you don't have the right to dominate anyone else's world. If you can stick with following these two rules, the rest of your life will be drastically different. Will it be easy? No, not at all. Will it be worth it? Yes. I don't promise you much, but if take on the Hero's Creed seriously, your life and the way you view the world will definitely improve. Overcome your villains. I hope you can finally start to see the villains in your life for what they really are. Let's be honest. It's going to be tough because we've learned that villains can be tricky. Sometimes they disguise themselves as your parents, your best friend, or even a simple commercial on TV. The villains are everywhere, and most people never even realize they're under attack. But now you do. It's your job to be the hero, overcome the villains, and, more importantly, help others in their quest as they come along behind you. How to dominate your days. Life is complicated. You have to balance relationships, school, work, hobbies, technology, driver's tests, etc. That's a whole lot of scenarios when you need to be on top of your game. Personally, I think being a teen today is a lot harder than when your parents were teens. Don't tell them I said that, don't get all defensive. You have so much going on and so many opportunities for success and failure. But remember, no matter what scenario you find yourself in, you can always remember the basic rules of the Hero's Creed. You can choose to look at all of your responsibilities as an overwhelming list that you'll never overcome, or as a string of day-by-day decisions that will add up over time. Remember, the best way to dominate all of your days is to take it on one day and one challenge at a time. Everything changes, and everything stays the same. This is kind of a good news, bad news situation. In life, things will always be changing. By that I mean your circumstances will always be changing, including your friends, jobs, locations, living situations, roommates, etc. You'll date different people. You'll be hired and fired. You'll be let down. You'll let others down. Life is different every single day, and you will face a variety of challenges every time you crawl out of bed. But then there's the good news. Everything stays the same. While you will always be facing these different challenges and having shootouts with villain after villain in all of these different circumstances, there are some things that never change. The general principles such as the Hero's Creed never change. You will always and forever be the only person responsible for what happens with your life in both the good and bad situations. In addition, the tactics used by the villains, while they seem to be shifting, will always be the same. They will focus on greed, pride, jealousy, and insecurity. When you learn to spot these villains, it will become easier and easier for you to get out of their way and handle them appropriately. The villains won't stop attacking you. In fact, if you're a real hero, they'll do everything they can to take you down. But this time, you'll be ready for them. You must choose! When you put down this book, you're going to make a decision, right? Maybe you'll go to sleep or turn on the TV. Maybe you'll sit back and think through all the crazy things I've thrown at you. Maybe you'll start to truly think about who you are or the friends that you hang out with. It could be that you'll start to research a new career or start studying for an upcoming test. You may even begin to analyze your life and start seeing individuals as the villains that they are. Maybe you'll write a thank you letter /email/text to a friend who, over time, has shown that he or she is a valuable ally. Only you can make that decision. Did you get that? I'll say it again. Only you can make that decision. As much as I'd love to waltz in and whip you into shape, I can't. From here on out, the decisions are up to you. But remember, the next decision you make, and every decision after that, are steps that can take you in either a right or a wrong direction. Look around. Do you know what an audit is? It's an inspection. Your parents know what this word means. You might have heard the phrase getting audited by the IRS. This means that the Internal Revenue Service, a government agency, is going to take the time to pour through every financial decision your parents made in the past year and determine if there's been any issues that need to be addressed. If you ever want to freak out your parents sometime, answer the phone and say, "Hold on," they look your dad in the eye and say, "It's the IRS, something about an audit." Pay attention to the look he gives you. That is the look of true fear. That is the look of true fear. Hopefully you haven't been audited by the IRS, but maybe it's time for you to take a personal life audit. You could choose to take a few minutes and review the identity section in Chapter 15. Get out a piece of paper and start answering those questions. If you're too lazy to browse back through the pages, here they are again. What makes you unique? What do you love? What do you hate? What are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? Now take some time and write down your identity statement. Something that encompasses your life as you know it. It doesn't have to be too specific, but it should be something that kind of helps guide the decisions that you make every single day. Next part of the audit, write down a list of your 5 closest friends. Now these are tough questions, but I know you have the courage to answer them. Are your friends good people? Are they the heroes of their own stories, or are they the villains taking over other people's lives? Maybe even yours. If you were best friends with these 5 people for the rest of your life, would they make your life better or worse? I know that this is difficult, but maybe you need to reconsider who you spend your time with. I know this could sting like ripping off a bandage, but if you don't, you're allowing these zombies or these pirates to control you by demanding your attention. Maybe you need to ask the same question about the person you are dating. Is he or she a pirate? A zombie? A puppy? You should really figure that out, because these decisions you're making with your boyfriend or girlfriend will impact your lives for a long, long time. The master plan. Once you've audited your life, it's time to make a list of goals. Don't make your list just about how much money you want to make or how many cars you want to have. Make goals that will tell a great story. A story worth retelling. Making $1 million isn't a great story. Making $1 million then providing clean water for 1 year for 1 million people in Africa is. More than generosity, though, make your goals about accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Dream big and dream far in advance. It's time to talk about what being a hero and dominating your world actually means. Nobody likes a hero who sits around watching YouTube all day long. Not a hero. Heroes are awake. Heroes have passions. Heroes pursue epic goals to the ends of the earth and refuse to give up. What are your goals? What could be changed, discovered, or invented all because of you? Who could be encouraged, rescued, or helped all because of you? In 5 years, you might realize your goals have changed. Maybe you'll discover that being a doctor isn't for you. Maybe you'll want to be a musician instead. Maybe you'll feel called to something completely different. That's totally cool. Just make a new set of goals. That's part of a great story. The hero doesn't always accomplish what she set out to do. What she faces and learns along the way may give her a new mission. What's important is she doesn't give up on pursuing who she is becoming. Ever. Even if you do have your plans set out, you can't live 5 or 30 or even 1 year in the future. If you're going to drive across the country, you can't daydream about reaching the coastline of Maine, or the coast of Oregon if you live on the East Coast, or other places if you live in the middle, or either place if you live in the middle, daydreaming is pointless. It doesn't get you anywhere. First, you have to make sure your car can make the trip, or that you have a car, or a driver's license for that matter. Then you get in your car and start it up. Then you have to load up the tank and buy a map and some snacks for the road. Then you just go. You face 1 mile at a time. That's all you can deal with right now. You experience everything between you and your destination. You stick to the roads that keep you going in the right direction, even if you take the time to enjoy the scenic routes. Then one day you'll be there. You'll think about the sights you saw on your journey, and the people you met, and the friends you made, and that time in Nebraska when it was raining freakishly hard, and your tire blew, and you didn't think you'd ever finish what you set out to do. I did make it, you'll think. I've come all this way, and I'm here, and it feels awesome. Then, here's what you do. You plan your next adventure and set off again. It's your world, young champion. And you're going to make your own master plan, but don't forget that there are a bunch of people out there who don't have this same luxury. Maybe one of your master plans could be to help them out along the way. In my opinion, a story worth retelling looks to help others that are outside of your relationships with your family, your friends, your school, and even your country. It is a small world after all. If you are reading this book, I can safely assume 2 things about you. 1, you can read. If you can't read and you're somehow absorbing this information, then maybe you should submit yourself for government testing. 2, you live in a place where this book is available and therefore reside in one of the more prosperous countries in the world. If those 2 things are true, you are one of the most fortunate people on the face of the planet. You already have more power, influence, and wealth than the vast majority of humanity. Spider-Man's dearly departed Uncle Ben has a quote about this sort of thing. With great power comes great responsibility. As a person with superpowers, and in the lens of the world, reading and living in the prosperous nation count as superpowers, you can choose to either use those powers selfishly and become a supervillain, or use them to protect and help others and become a superhero. Remember, heroes are protectors and defenders, not just of themselves, but of those weaker than they. Heroes should be motivated by a sense of responsibility and a strong belief in justice to do more than simply sit back and bask in their glorious hero-ness. Part of being a hero is being the world's greatest ally, even to people who you've never met and probably never will. So here's another audit question. Have you ever considered that the world isn't fair? Luckily for you and me, we were born in a time and place that allows us to do something about it. There is a mentality in the world today, even with a lot of teens, that says, I want, I want, I want. But what would happen to your life if that became, I give, I give, I give? Generosity is necessary. Being generous with what we have has many benefits, including feeling really great about yourself. But that's not why you should be generous. It's not about you. It's about us and how we're in it together. If we consistently use others and walk by our fellow man with our noses up and closed hand, we hurt ourselves. Call it what you want. Karma, the golden rule, whatever. Wisdom means we see the world as a whole, look at it from a perspective other than our own. If we were broke and out of luck, we would need help. But if we rely only on the government or on other, more generous people to do their part, we are only hurting ourselves. We are simply contributing to a broken system instead of doing something to try and fix it. If you are dominating your own world, you have a gift, but it's not a gift that should be packed away deep inside you. It's a gift you need to share, teaching and helping others to choose to dominate their worlds. For example, meet Zach Hunter. Zach Hunter is an anti-slavery activist who launched Loose Change to Loosen Chains, a student-led effort to raise awareness and funds to end slavery all around the world. He's also written these 3 books. When he realized there are actually 27 million slaves in the world today, he knew it wasn't enough just to get all emotional about it. He took his emotions of outrage and disbelief and started a movement among his fellow students. Oh, by the way, Zach was only 12 years old when he published his first book, and is only 19 years old right now. Now don't sit around and tell me that he had this, and you don't. I'll tell you what he had. Passion. Zach determined at a young age that his life was going to be about him and what he could accomplish. Zach determined at age 12 years old that he was going to free slaves. Jeez. When I was 12 years old, I was probably in detention for being a jerk. What's the difference? I chose to mess around and see what I could get away with. Zach chose to use whatever talent he had to raise money in order to free slaves. These are the decisions that we choose to make, or not make, every single day. One thing about Bethany Hamilton. When she was 13, she was surfing off the coast of Hawaii and was attacked by a shark. In fact, she almost died because of how much blood she lost. Now, if there is anyone who can complain about how unfair life is, it would be Bethany. But you know what? She overcame her ghost, got back in the water, and taught herself to surf again with only one arm. And not only did she learn, she went on to win 5th place at the National Surfing Championships in 2004 and took first place in the Open Women's Division at the first stop on the Hawaii National Scholastic Surfing Association circuit. I love the interview she gave on Primetime Live a few years back. She said, quote, "I get tons of letters, stories of people that were going through a hard time, and then they saw that I didn't give up on my dreams. I kept surfing. It helped them out a lot, and that just shows that good can come out of like bad stuff like this." She is a true hero. Talk about a situation of either getting bitter or better. She took an awful accident and is now using it to help teens overcome the villains in their lives. These stories are everywhere. Some people choose to let the villains and sharks dominate their lives, while others, heroes like Zach and Bethany, stand up and fight back to overcome these villains. So, who will you be? Now is the time to decide. Are you going to choose the hard thing because it's the right thing? Drop that bad friend? Make that pirate walk the plank? Develop your own programming so you can finally get all those robots off your back? Say no to the ninjas and tell them to go trick someone else? Quit following those vampires and learn that all they want is to strip you of your identity? Are you going to do it? You are you. You are the hero of your own world, and it is waiting to be dominated by you. Remember, if you don't do it, there is a long list of villains who are ready and waiting to take over. No more excuses. Like I said, there are no secrets that will automatically fix everything, but a series of decisions to make to live a life worth remembering. And this is one of those moments. This is a moment that can change your life forever. This is a moment that one day you can look back on and declare that everything changed that moment I shut that book. Or you can put this book on your shelf and forget about it. It can collect cobwebs and mold, and someday you can put it in a garage sale because you need some extra cash to pay off your grown credit card debt. Let this book be your guide. Come back to it often to remind yourself of what it looks like to dominate your own world. Keep editing your ID statement so you will always know who you are and how you relate to the world around you. Come back often to get a refresher course on the villains in your life, and make sure you remember how to keep them far, far away. The best world domination stories live on forever. One of those things about movies and books is that they end. The hero gets the girl or defeats the bad guy or becomes a better person. In a movie, it takes a couple hours. In a book, a little longer. But generally speaking, every story that we watch, read, tell, or listen to will end. I think this is why we love simple stories, but life can sometimes seem a little difficult. Why? Our real life doesn't have that finality. Once we overcome a great obstacle, something else takes its place. Once you've fought through and earned your college degree, you face the new story of finding a career you love. Once you find your career path, you enter into the story of finding a partner to spend your life with. Once you find a partner to spend your life with, maybe you will enter the story of parenthood, and you become a part of your child's story, which will continue on. This is going to sound discouraging at first, but the quest to dominate your world won't end until, well, you do. But the great thing about dominating your world is that every decision that was made along your story was a decision that you made to become more and more of who you truly are at your core. This will make you happy. And while I still have a lot to learn, just like you, one thing I've learned is that if you can be happy, you can pretty much handle anything that comes your way. So now I leave you with a simple scenario. You will always face conflict. The villains will never stop their attacks. And there will always be obstacles as you seek to fulfill your world domination plan. And you have two choices. One, you can face those obstacles and those villains head on, because it will continually make you a better person. It will shape you into a remarkable storyteller with life experiences that made the world a better place. You will live like a hero and die a hero's death. Or you can give up. You can run and hide. You can numb the conflicts of life with drugs and alcohol and sex and greed right up until the day you die. Your story will suck. But here's something I've learned. The best stories don't end with you. The best stories live on through your friends and family and the lives you've had an impact on. That's the thing about living a great life. It's infectious. If you want to infect the world with hope, protect those who can't protect themselves. If you want to live a life based on truth and not on the false advertisements and greed of others, then there's only one thing left for you to do. Choose. Choose to overcome your villains. Choose to dominate your world. You know how to do it. Now go. In your face, but on your side, Josh. Acknowledgements. Dear reader, the following is a list of smart/attractive/wonderful/caring/supportive people who you probably don't know, along with a lot of inside jokes you probably won't get. Just deal with it. No one is making you read this. But I'm doing it anyway, because why not? To all the people on this list, you have each made my life incredible, and I owe each of you a kidney. Sadly, I only have two. Cage match! Sarah Shipp, I love you. London Shipp, this is going to be fun. Rodney and Christine Weidenmayer, you are two truly incredible humans. Alex and Roxanne Petrancola, I'm honored to be a part of your life, your family. Gary Jones, thanks for teaching me how to live life. Jan Sadowski, others saw a punk kid, you saw potential. Letty Dilbeck, Deco was the car. Thanks for loaning me the keys. Kathy McRice, you mean so much to me. Tom Colley, teaching and entertaining go hand in hand. Patsy Sellers, you saw my success way before I did. John Fort, your wisdom floors me. David Tische, write your dang book. Josh Keller, Boston Marathon, baby. Russell Pierce, your phone messages make me weep with joy. Jeremy Hearn, my guns are bigger than yours. The end. Jason Jones, I miss you. Ben Van Metter, Excellent choice, sire. Jeff Revenall. Thanks for all the rides. Jeff Wooten. Yup. Sam Glenn. Thanks for all your early guidance. Chris Fisher. The best wingman ever. Ezra Gordon. So excited for your future. I know him. Kendall Smith. What would Mike Mammoth do? Aaron Yamada. You are responsible for this being on the shelf. David Wenzel. Brother? Michael Coletto. I don't know how you do it. Have you hacked my brain? Jordan Green. Great work, Jordan. You sure you're a 7? Molly Young. Without you, this would be nothing but Star Wars references. Brett Van Til. The man of mystery who holds it all together. Corey Petrick. You started all this, hipster. Santino Stoner. All of our conversation make me want to change the world. Kirk Flateau. The big brother I never had. Shaken Bait. Julie Biaglili. Navel to Spine. Carol Simon Morgan. Good morning, or good evening, Carol. Eric Diaz. Don't be mad you're this far down the list. Ellis Cincinnati. My fellow Kenyan / hippie. Steve McGowan. Me, you, Ocean, soon. John Heinlein and Mel Bjorn. No more board games with you guys. Barb Acosta. Love you, Mom. Tim Spione. Thanks, Coach. Donald Miller. Thanks for leading the way. Gabe Lyons. I'm flattered to be a part of what you've built. Bob Goff. You've changed my perspective. Forever. Ken and Amy Van Mater. You set the bar so high in marriage and in salsa. Elise Diamond. You just plain get it. Thank you. Oh jeez, our backs made me wonder what the heck. Lisa Sens and the St. Martin's team. Thrilled to be a part of this family. Jamie Oliver. I still owe you lunch. Frank Kern. You are the sensei. Tony Hawk. Thanks for the kind words. Craig Mitchell. Thanks, Ruby. The Rock family. Redcliffe Baby Mama. Bobby Bruenwald. This is better than a tweet, yes? Brian Fernandez. Jonah Patel, who? Antidote.com. About Josh Shipp. Josh Shipp is a teen advice guru, motivational speaker, marathon runner, and an undisputed guitar hero. With more than a decade of hands-on, real-world experience, Josh has earned an international reputation as a leading authority on teen communication that's in your face but on your side. Abandoned and abused as a child and raised in a dozen different foster homes, Josh has taken his past of hurt and neglect, turned it around, and used it as a catalyst for helping others. Seen on MTV, CNN, NBC, Fox, Comedy Central, and featured in the Los Angeles Times and Inc. magazines, 30 Under 30, America's Coolest Young Entrepreneurs, Josh's inspiring personal story and life-changing message has reached more than 1 million teens. And counting. Say hi at heyjosh.com. I don't know if that website is still up and running, but it says that here, so whatever. Founded in 2008, Hey Josh is an integrated media platform that uses Josh Shipp's unique life experience and communication style to deliver meaningful video, web, and published experiences for teens and young adults and those who influence them positively. And that was the Teen's Guide to World Domination, advice on life, liberty, and the pursuit of awesomeness. To say that I enjoyed reading this book, and the fact that reading this has actually given me has actually taught me things that I may have missed the first time I read this book when I was in high school, because again, I did get this book. Because again, I got this book through my school because of a summer reading program that they did. This was one of 3 books. This was one of 3 books that I got. The other 2 were Tears of the Tiger and Fast Food Nation, which I'll be reading those at whatever later points I'll be reading them on. But this book, if I were to give it a rating, I would definitely give it a PG-13 rating for brief language, alcohol and drug references, as well as well, pretty much that's about it because it does kind of talk about things that teens should know about, but not in graphic detail. So in some ways, I could see him as referencing those sort of situations. So that's probably why I would say alcohol, drug, and sexual references, but not explicitly shown enough for it to be an R-rated kind of thing there. But definitely, but yes, it did have some brief language in it, but not too much. Not too much. It's good enough for a teenager to read this, really. But now, the next book that I will at some point do a live reading stream on is Her Perfect Family by Teresa Driscoll. As you can tell, the bookmarker is still here and I'm that far into the book reading it off screen. But let me tell you guys, I have never, up to this point, outside of a few other books over here, I have never read a book like this that has made me want to keep on reading it over and over. Also, because it does share some language that is very much sounding like it would have to be in a British accent. I don't know if I want to use a British accent. You know what? I'll let the people decide on this one. Should I use a British accent for the characters? Only for the characters. It'll only be for the characters. While I will be narrating it like, I will be narrating it like I normally would speak, but I would use the British voices for the character voices. But anyway, I am going to read you guys but to hype this up, I'm going to read the back of this, alright? Here, let me show you. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to read the back of this here. A gripping psychological thriller from the best-selling author of I Am Watching You. It's their daughter's graduation, and Rachel and Ed Hartley are expecting it to be one of their family's happiest days. But when she stumbles and falls on stage during the ceremony, a beautiful moment turns to chaos. Gemma has been shot, and just like that, she's fighting for her life. P.I. Matthew Hill is one of the first on the scene. A cryptic message Gemma received earlier in the day suggests someone close to her was about to be exposed. But who? As Matthew starts to investigate, he finds more and more layers obscuring the truth. He even begins to suspect the Hartleys are hiding something big from him and from each other. While Gemma lies in the hospital in a coma, her would-be killer is still out there. Can Matthew unravel the family's secrets before the attacker strikes again? We'll just have to wait and see, as we will be reading Her Perfect Family. Now, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know I kind of went off topic near the middle of the stream, but it happens. It can happen. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed my reading stream. And until next time, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.